Well, hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Mississippi Speed Record post-trip recap brought to you by One Mississippi. My name is Wally Woodrick. I'm one of the paddlers that was in the canoe, and I'm going to be kind of your de facto host for the evening. But we're not the one that's going to be bringing to you this broadcast. That is going to be One Mississippi, and I'd like to introduce Gretchen, who'd like to say a little bit about One Mississippi.
Thank you, Wally. I am Gretchen Hagel, and I'm here with Michael Anderson, and we are both with Mississippi River Network, also known as One Mississippi. And we are so excited and deeply honored to have the Mississippi Speed Record team and this event as part of Mississippi River Network's third annual River Days of Action. Tonight's live stream is one of 30 plus cool events taking place from Minnesota to Louisiana and many points between. From cleanups to online webinars and educational opportunities and recreational opportunities, there's truly something for everyone and countless ways for you to connect with a community of people who care for the river. There are 4 more days of River Days of Action events, and you can check them all out on our website, onemississippi.org/riverdays. River Days of Action is presented by Mississippi River Network. We are a coalition of 70 organizations, plus we have partners like Mississippi Speed Record, and we all work together to protect and care for the people, land, water, and wildlife of the Mississippi River. The network's One Mississippi program has a community of 20,000 supporters or river citizens. These are people like you that receive our emails and take simple but meaningful actions to help the river. We're the only grassroots organizations working for the entire river, and you can sign up as a river citizen on our website, onemississippi.org, and we also will put up a bit.ly link directly so that you can sign up as a river citizen. There it is. Mississippi River Network is a proud sponsor of the Mississippi Speed Record, and this amazing team, their incredible support crew and followers are true champions of the river. Through watching this epic journey, we have all gotten a front row seat to the majesty of the Mississippi River, including people, land, water, and wildlife. And when you come to know the Mississippi River in this way, it is only natural to want to protect it. 20 million people get their drinking water from the river. It provides habitat for over 800 species of birds, fish, wildlife. And it also, of course, offers recreational opportunities like paddling and economic opportunities that generate about $400 billion of revenue per year for our economy. Unfortunately, the river is severely degraded and was listed on American River's Most Endangered Rivers list in 2022. One way that you can help this is by joining us as a river citizen, link down in the corner there, or go to onemississippi.org. Another way is this month we have a simple online action you can take. We are calling on Congress to protect and increase funding for important Farm Bill conservation programs, and these offer smart solutions that support clean water, our communities, and of course the river. You can learn more and take the 1-minute action on our website. Again, that's onemississippi.org. And with that, we thank you to hear from Scott, Judd, Paul, Wally, Moose, and the rest of the Mississippi Speed Record team. And with that, I'm going to turn it right back to Wally to jump into tonight's activities. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Gretchen. I appreciate it. But before we get rolling on our stuff, I'd like to welcome Michael Anderson here. And before we went on, Michael, you're telling me a little bit about all the cool stuff that's happening all over the country. Can you tell everybody here a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Wally, I'd love to. And with our audience tonight, I will start off right away by talking about getting people out on the water in canoes. And so with River Days of Action, I think for the first time, at least in the modern era, we have big boats, Voyager canoes, going on the water in the Twin Cities with Wilderness Inquiry. We have them going in St. Louis with Big Muddy Adventures, down in Clarksdale, Mississippi with Quapaw Canoe Company, and the newest occupant of one of these large boats is the National Mississippi River Museum and Aquarium in Dubuque, Iowa. And so over River Days of Action, these boats have been vessels, right? Similar to what we'll hear all about tonight. These vessels that not only have connected people with the water, but that have connected hearts and minds, right, with the river. And so it's just phenomenal to be a part of an initiative like this that brings together thousands of people up and down the river. Yeah, so it's good things happening, Wally.
And that's fantastic. And it's been going on not only this week, but for a long time. And people can find out more about that on the website, onemississippi.org/River Days. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So we touched on all the canoes going out on the river, but also on the webpage there, you'll find different opportunities. We have 3 other webinars still happening this week, as including a webinar with American Rivers, which gets into climate change in the Mississippi River. We have one on Friday that gets more into the Farm Bill and these conservation programs. Another one on Saturday, which is a guided forest bathing session. I tell you what, I went last year, Wally. It's fantastic. It's a wonderful way to relax. And that is our closing event with River Days. And if you're not into the online, check it out. We also have an interactive map that shows where different events are happening. Everything from environmental justice focused, down by the river bike ride in New Orleans, to different meetings with legislators. A lot is going on in the watershed during River Days of Action.
Well, that is fantastic. And I have to tell you, I speak, I think, for everybody with the Mississippi Speed Record team. Thank you so much for everything that you do to bring attention not only to the river, but everything that's got to do with the outdoors. We really, truly appreciate that.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear. And the last thing I'll offer is that for anyone listening tonight, right, we're all carrying different pieces of the solutions, right? And so our encouragement is to be yourself, try something new, keep learning, keep growing, and trust that you matter, right? And that you really can make a difference. And when we all come together, well, we create a pretty big wave. So we'll keep at it together, Wally.
That's fantastic. I love that. When we all come together, we create a pretty big wave. Isn't that true? Isn't that true? Well, that's great. And I also like to speak on behalf of the Mississippi Speed Record team, all of us here, and beyond just us 5 guys that are on the platform right here, right now. We had probably another 20 people strong behind us. We really thank the support of your organization with our endeavor. I can tell you this, without you guys, it would have never happened. So we appreciate all that you've done for us from the bottom of our heart. And we really appreciate the invitation to kind of share some of our stories about our record and what we did. So thank you very much. And so I guess, Gretchen and Michael, if you'd like to stay up on the platform, we can leave you up here on the platform. I can bring you back down into the studio, and you guys can just sit back, relax, and listen to what we've got to say. And perhaps we can bring you back in. And when more people start getting on the live stream here, you can talk once again about all of the events that you have for River Days, because let me tell you, it's fantastic.
That sounds great, Wally. We're just glad to be here and listen. And you guys are the stars of the show. We can't wait to hear from you.
Fantastic. Well, again, thank you. I'll drop you back down into the studio and enjoy. All right, everybody?
Thank you.
All right. Well, here we go, gentlemen. Again, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Wally Werderick. I'm one of the 4 paddlers that were in the Mighty Duffus canoe that just recently set the new Guinness Book of World Record for going from the headwaters of the Mississippi River in Minnesota on Lake Itasca all the way down to mile marker 0 in the Gulf of Mexico. So without any further ado, I'd ask Scott, Paul, Judd, and Moose to introduce yourself. We'll go with you, Scott.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Scott Miller. I'm coming to you from a few blocks west of the Mississippi here in South Minneapolis. And it's great fun to be back with my teammates and back with Moose all together and be back together with our fans that supported us so much, all from the very beginning until the very end. You know, we had people coming out to cheer us through all 10 states. And so it's nice to be back with our friends and our community again. I have to say this has been a dream of mine for many years, and the reason I wanted to do it most of all was because it filled me with joy, and I just thought it was so much fun. And doing it with these four guys on the screen here and the rest of our support team, it was more fun and more joyful than I could have ever imagined. And frankly, all of the fans, those of you that are with us now, and those that came out to the river, were a huge part of that joy. So hopefully we can keep this going in one form or another. And then with One Mississippi too, we, I think, have all become river citizens, and you can sign up at onemississippi.org. Highly recommended, because everything fun that happens on the Mississippi River and everything educational, they've got a bead on it. So you'll get an email that tells you about all that. So even if you can't do all of the events that are happening now, maybe you can do them in 3 months or a year. And the River Citizen newsletter that you'll get, it's free in your email box, will keep you informed of all of that.
And Scott, before we move on to Paul over here, speaking of fun things to do on the river, you just wrapped up a really cool series of races that you put on with excuse me if I get the name of the company wrong. It's Two Paddles.
Yeah, that's right.
Two Paddles, and you just got done with a series of Mississippi Rivers races, the MR 140. Why don't you talk a little bit about that and talk about all of that you do with Two Paddles?
Well, it was a way to continue the joy of being on the river and share that with other people. You know, Moose, who was the support crew leader for our whole big support crew on the record attempt, he ran the finish line. Probably the most important job. And once again, he had a crew of people, just like on the record attempt. And once again, we found ourselves surrounded with incredibly hardworking, hilarious, wonderful humans. And it's something about the river just brings people together and brings out the best in people. And yeah, we had people paddle from Brainerd, Minnesota, 150 miles. We had people start in Clearwater and do 48 miles. We had people start in Otsego and do 25 miles, and Ramsey and do 10 miles. Everybody ended up just north of the Twin Cities at the Coon Rapids Dam for a big party. It was totally awesome. We had over 200 people on the river. There was challenges, there was adventures, there was drama. But, you know, everybody came through it with incredible stories and closer to all the other people on the river. If you go to twopaddles.org, you can read all about it. If you look up Two Paddles MN on Facebook, you can see all the videos and pictures and become part of the community. And it's an annual event, the second weekend of every June. So we'd love to have you join us next year.
Fantastic. And before I go to Paul, I got to ask, is Moose going to be the head of the finish line next year?
Well, I haven't secured his agreement for that yet, but I sure hope so.
Well, Moose, I'll sweeten the pot. If he does ask you to do that job, I'll throw in an extra 50 to make sure that I'm number one on that list of the people that cross the finish line.
Somewhere along the line, there was a cold beer mentioned about a discussion. So
that's right.
So, all right, without any, actually, I'll use that as a nice transition right into you, Moose.
Well, hey, everybody. Moose Doherty. I was the support crew leader for the world record-breaking adventure that we just had, and happy to be with you.
Well, cool. And Moose, you had a big job out there. How many people totally were involved on the support crew, would you say?
We had 24 people involved on a day-to-day basis. That was 5 safety boat captains. We had 16 shore support people. That included 2 folks, Amy Robin and Alex Mayer, that were the documentary film company called Wilderness Mindset. They came along and filmed the entire adventure, and they have a fantastic trailer, which I think we may have an opportunity to see here tonight, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Wally?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we're going to let some excitement build, and then we'll roll that trailer out. It's going to be great.
Yeah, so them, and then we had Zach Ellefson and with Drone City, who was operating a drone, took some unbelievable footage. Then we had two advisors along with us, Mindy Craigness and Todd Foster, were kind of working remote, but advising us on a day-to-day basis and helping us get through. And then many of the people that were mentioned earlier tonight, John Rusky from Quapaw Canoe Company in Clarksdale, Mississippi, and Mike Clark, Big Money Adventures in St. Louis, Missouri, were advising us on, the best places to paddle, and they're experts on that part of the river. Like was mentioned, even came out to visit the team. Joey Cargill, a river pilot, and his friend Gino Gandolfi helped connect us with river pilots, Joe McKee and Pat Gale and Phil Gandolfi. And we even had 3 dogs with us, Murphy, who's Judson and Daniela's dog, and then Minnow and Echo, who were along with Alex and Amy. So we had just a fantastic crew. And then along the way, of course, River Angels and others. So yeah, it was a fantastic effort by so many people, not to mention the many fans that came out to support the team and came to support the shore crew with food and signs and encouragement. It was absolutely phenomenal.
That's great. And it's really neat. And one of the hardest things that I have found when I tell people about what we did was trying to explain the support crew. Everybody thinks it was just us 4 guys piling in the boat, and to explain the support crew and explain the supply chain that went along with the support crew and the boats and everything like that. That you do a great job, and we'll get back into that in a little bit. Paul, looks like things are looking good out there in sunny Georgia. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, it's not so sunny today, but I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and Jackson Lake, which is close by. I know we have at least one person from the paddle club there at Jackson Lake, so I want to do a quick shout out to them. Paul Cox from Atlanta, Georgia, and I was one of the 4 guys in the boat. And I think, Moose had talked and Wally had talked about how awesome all the support was for both from our support crew and also the folks that we saw all up and down the river. And I see that Beth, she posted a comment, and guys, keep on posting comments because we love hearing what you have to say, as well as some of the questions that you have. We can answer them as we go through the session tonight. But Beth, I see that you are at Coon Rapids Dam. I can't tell you how much that helped. I saw a classmate there actually that I hadn't seen since college, and that was way more years than I care to admit. I can't do the math that well, but it was just amazing to see you guys out there, and it just was such a boost to our energy level, and it encouraged us and really kept us going. So thank you, Beth, and all the other folks we saw just up and down the river. Small towns, big towns. In the middle of the night, we'd hear screams and cheers from the shore, and didn't always know where they were coming from, but we did our best to listen and at least wave to you because, again, you guys were just meant so much to us. And I want to also just emphasize what Michael said. It did take a village. Wally had previously said this, but it wasn't just 4 guys in a boat. It was Moose and his crew on shore, 2 support boats that shepherded us down the river all the way from Minneapolis to mile marker 0. And it was just a massive effort, and one that changed me forever. And it was just amazing. So I know we're going to share lots of stories. So I will save some time for those. And pass
Very
it on.
nice, very nice. And thanks for prompting me. For everybody that's just joining us on Facebook, make sure you smash that like button, be included in the conversation, putting up some comments here. Got a lot of people joining us. We'll try and hit on questions if you got any questions. If I don't get to them, it's not because I don't think that it's a good question. Just we've got a lot of things going on here. If you're on the Facebook, or if you're on Facebook, or if you're on YouTube and you're not on our Facebook or our YouTube channel, make sure that you sign into our YouTube channel, a Mississippi Speed Record YouTube channel, and become a subscriber on our YouTube channel. and smash that like button to our live stream here. There's going to be a lot of people that aren't able to make that stream tonight. And by hitting the thumbs up and subscribing to our YouTube channel, that gets our YouTube channel out on the algorithm. And also, if you smash that like button with Facebook, that it also gets that algorithm out there, so people who may have missed it can come back around and be able to be prompted to join our stream. So Judd, you're next up.
All right. Well, first of all, Kathy said hi to me. Hi, Kathy. How are you? And also, I saw in the comments that Joe Mann said you guys rock. And before I talk about myself, I want to talk about Joe for a second. So Joe is our backup paddler, and Joe is part of the crew that brought this team together. All of us have paddled with Joe at one time or another, raced with him, trained with him. And on top of that, on top of being an incredible human being, he also just finished the Texas Water Safari, which is one of the hardest things to finish in the world. We won't go too much into it, but it's a long, winding river that's really technically challenging. And then by the time you're completely exhausted and feel like you can't go anymore, you have to cross a bay in the ocean. And that bay is usually windy and full of huge waves, and just finishing it is a feat in itself. And I know he did really well in the race also. So anyways, thanks, Joe. You were out there with us in spirit, for sure. We felt you in your presence in the boat. Every time we slowed down, we thought we need to go faster for Joe. And then there's some other things that
we would sing songs about Joe. Joe became a mythical figure like Paul Bunyan.
We sing songs about Joe. You were inspiration to us, and for me, you're the reason I'm on this team. So, anyways, I'm Judd Steinbach. I'm from La Crosse, Wisconsin. I was one of the guys in the canoe, and there it is, 10%. and I live in La Crosse, Wisconsin. I'm lucky enough that my actual backyard is a side channel of the Mississippi River, and I spend a lot of my life on the river, either training or racing, or going to sandbars with my family, camping. It's a really, really special place to me, and be able to paddle it in its entirety is even more special. So my overwhelming feeling, I think I'll leave it there.
Well, all right. And the last person to go is me. My name is Wally Werderick. I'm the last paddler in the boat to talk here today. I'm from Yorkville, Illinois. I truly love the river, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to be supported and represent the Mississippi Speed Record team. I'm humbled. I'm also empowered by all of the people that have taken interest in our endeavor. It was very, very cool just to know the support that we had from everybody. And it's really, really cool to see all of the support and everybody coming and joining us today. So if you're just signing in, welcome to the stream. It's really good to see everybody here. This is our trip recap presented to you by One Mississippi. This is all part of their River Days Festival. The River Days Festival has lots of really neat things going on with not only the Mississippi River, but other on-water activities all over the United States. I'm going to throw this back up there one more time. If you want to get more information about One Mississippi, you can get the River Days Festival. Go to onemississippi.org. That's the number one, onemississippi.org/River Days. And you can find out all about that. One Mississippi was also a sponsor of the Mississippi Speed Record team. So what was it, Scott? Correct me if I'm wrong here. 16 days,
20 hours, 16 minutes.
16, 20, 16.
That's right.
That's going to be my new combination on my bike lock.
And the other number is that we beat the record by 20. Well, now see, I'm misremembering. 20 hours and 30 minutes.
No,
23 hours.
23 hours.
23 hours and 33 minutes. Yeah. But who's counting?
But who's counting?
Yeah, right. And I'm going to start the questions off, and this is for all of us paddlers, right? A good friend of mine, James Cayley, is asking, which is the strongest paddler? And I'm going to go here with this, and I'm going to put on my Don King hat here and say, we are going to have a pay-per-view event, a battle royal of the 4 paddlers of the Mississippi Speed Record, no holds barred. Yes. No, and actually, to that point, I guess to start things rolling, one of the neat things about our effort here was that we all brought something a little bit different to the boat, don't you think, guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think the same can be said for the support crew, isn't that right?
Oh, completely. We had all sorts of different talents, every bit of which was necessary to help out.
And I have to tell you guys, the one thing that we all had in common that really, I think in my mind, spurred us down the river was just positive energy. Wouldn't you guys say so?
Yeah.
Yeah, but just to point out to some of the strengths, I mean, why don't we each guy just say one thing they're proud of on their paddling resume? Because you guys have incredible paddling resumes. I mean, maybe just say one thing, Wally.
Right there, man. Well, I tell you what, this record pales everything that I've ever done. It overshadows everything that I've ever done. I've raced in long distance canoe races all over the United States, and have won my class in most of them, including Texas Water Safari that you were just talking about, Missouri River 340, the Tour de Teche, the Au Canoe Marathon, and I have to qualify. I didn't win or complete top of my class in the Au Canoe Marathon. But to me, that was one that I was just thrilled just to finish. But yeah, I've been paddling and canoe racing since I was about 17 years old. So that's me.
And you're doing the Au with your son this year,
I
right?
am. My 18-year-old son and I are doing the Au this year. So that's going to be great.
So cool.
Paul?
Well, I think my singing voice probably is what I'm most proud of. I know you guys. There you go. And my dancing ability.
Paul Cox has been born from the canoe.
Yeah. So, that was my So we could talk about this later, but we slept in shifts, and that was my sleeping shift, and clearly I could have used more sleep at that point. But I think my singing voice and my ability to sit in one spot for an extremely weeks and weeks at a time, I think is probably my best strength. I think my daughter would probably tell you that's probably true. So I'll stick with that.
So Judd?
Well, I think my one of my proudest accomplishments in paddling was in 2021. My race partner Dan Goltz and I won the rookie division of the Au River Canoe Marathon, and that's a really challenging and really competitive race. So I think I'll put that out there as my biggest, most new racing accomplishment. I would say to harmonize with Paul's singing voice is my second biggest strength.
I think you're right. I think the harmony both in voice and in paddle stroke, I think it worked out so well.
Yeah.
And Scott, yours besides eating, what would you say?
I'm really good at eating. I don't have the paddling resume that these guys have in terms of racing, but I think what I brought was the expedition mindset. And I think the combination of their racing expertise and some of my expedition, I paddled to Hudson Bay in 2005 with my friend Todd Foster and then Matt Lutz. So that was a 2,000-mile trip from the Twin Cities to where the polar bears live. And then in 2021, I had attempted the world record. So Moose was the support crew leader for both the 2021 and the 2023 attempts. And he and I learned so much from doing it the first time that really helped this team. All that experience really helped. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think that all you other guys, you can speak to that. It was really valuable as we went down the Mississippi River to have a knowledge set of a lot of the things having already been done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Question.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I wondered, why would you ever do this again?
Yeah.
But the fact that you've already done it was unbelievably valuable. And for those of you out there in the audience, we ultimately came to nickname Scott Magic Carpet Scotty because he had an incredible ability of finding the fast water in the river. Just had an unbelievable way that he could perceive how the water was moving, and always found the fast water.
I'll have just a quick story here. First of all, I wanted to mention that the Mississippi River Network was with us on both attempts. So we have partnered with them since the beginning of this effort back in 2019 when we first started taking a look at it. But after the first attempt, about which ended about 138 miles or so from the finish when the canoe got sucked out from under the team. About a week later, I get a call from Scott saying, "Hey, let's get together for a beer." And I mean, this isn't usual. Scott is married to my niece Heidi. We see each other at family events. It's not normal that he would call me up and say, "Let's go grab a beer," right? But anyhow, so I hang up the phone and I said to Joy, my wife, "He's going to do it again." And I mean, I can't do it. I'm not going to be able. I can't go through that again. I mean, it was so. I mean, it was great, but it was completely draining. Anyhow, we get to this pub that's kind of between our two houses, and we sit down. Scott orders us a beer, and he hands me one, and he says, "I'm not going to bury the lead," as he's cheers you. I'm going to try again, and I need you with me. And I said, "Oh, I'm in 100%." I go home, and Joyce says, "Well, is he doing it again?" I said, "Yep, he is." She goes, "How did he take it when you said you weren't along?" I said, "I'm all in. I'm in 100%. You know, we can do it this time."
Hey, Mom.
Thank God we were successful this time, Moose. I don't think I had it in me to ask you again, and you probably didn't have it in you to say yes again. I don't have that same feeling after this time. Like I'm not chomping at the bit to do it again anytime soon.
So when we were on the river, we had a really, really neat support crew, but there was a documentary crew that followed us the whole time. Scott, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, you know, the river is so beautiful. I felt like there was an opportunity. Part of the dream was, wouldn't it be cool if we could have a documentary film crew? And I could never really figure it out. I mean, how in the world do you make that happen? But like so many other things in this project, there's the magic of the river bringing people together. And a guy named Dale Sanders, who I believe is 87 now, maybe just turning 88 here shortly. He paddled the entire river in 2022 and set the record for the oldest person, taking his record back. He'd actually done it when he was younger, like when he was like 81 or something. And Wilderness Mindset, Alex Meyer and Amy Robin, they had filmed that, and they actually made a film about his journey. And I think I watched it, and I think maybe Judd watched it, and we were just really impressed because that documentary, it's called Graybeard, the Man, the Myth, the Mississippi. And if you Google Graybeard, you can actually purchase it online. It's not very expensive. You can stream it online, or you can get a DVD delivered to your house. It's just a delightful film. It again showcases how the river is so beautiful, and it brings out the best in people. And Dale is an extraordinary guy. We actually got to stay at his house on one of our training trips, and he has more energy. Honestly, I think he has more energy than any one of us, and he's 87. I mean, he's got a sparkle in his eye. He's just an incredible guy. So I highly recommend that movie. And then I saw that, and I thought, boy, well, wouldn't it be cool if we could get that documentary crew? And Alex and Amy were part of a larger crew, but I reached out to them, and somehow miraculously, just like 2 months before we were to launch, they were able to free up their schedule enough to come and do it. And how could you possibly get anybody better than had already filmed somebody paddling down the whole river literally the summer before? So it was just extraordinary. And then I think I can speak for all of us in saying that they vastly exceeded our expectations. I mean, they became part of the support crew, and not only were they filming much of the time, day and night, but they were also helping with food and hydration and navigation and everything. So we're forever indebted to them, and it was just incredible.
It is. And they came out with a trailer for the documentary already. And
Yes, they did.
do you guys think that we should share it right here on our live stream? What do you think?
Let's do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's fabulous.
Yeah. All right. Well, I let me just cue this up, folks. You are going to love this. I tell you what, it got me so excited, and it kind of captured like the feel of the energy that was behind our effort. I can't wait to see the finished product. So without any further ado, hold on a second. I'm going to cue this up. Drum roll, please.
The current record is 17 days, 19 hours, 46 minutes. It never occurred to me to try to set a Guinness World Record in anything or be interested in that. It was really like in one day, like a bolt of lightning was like, I want to do that. We were going to go in 2020, and then the coronavirus came and scuttled our plans, and we kind of had a falling out. So then we ended up kind of having rival teams in 2021. We almost beat them. They left 2 weeks before us. They set the new record, but then we had this tropical depression the last few days, 30-mile-an-hour winds, huge waves. The canoe sank out from under us. We had to get rescued on the support boat. And pretty darn quickly, I was like, well, I want to try that again. And that leads us to now.
All right, so there are 4 people in the canoe. There's Scott, Judd, Paul, and myself. And Scott is the leader of this group.
Well, Scott is the guru. He knows where we are at all times. We're like just cranking away. Anyone know where we are right now? Oh yeah, well 2 years ago we passed that rock over there. And then after that you'll see this weird kind of thing, and that indicates that there's a landing coming up. I mean, he is just an unbelievable fountain of knowledge.
Judd is a scientist in my mind in terms of not only paddling, but how to make this all happen. It's very intense. We just started. That's the crazy part, right?
Yeah, and Wally, I mean, always just really good at offering perspective. Really, really smart guy.
Paul, I see as being the athlete of the group. The most amazing resume of ultra endurance athletics, not just canoeing.
We're at 10 minutes, guys, 10 minutes.
In my mind, I don't see a disparate relationship between support team and canoe team. It's one big team, Mississippi Speed Record.
Let's go.
Let's get moving.
Let's roll. Let's roll. We can do a lot of this fixing stuff in the middle of the boat.
They're the people that truly make this happen.
And then we have the support boat crew, which is like 6 more people.
Hey, we're escorting a canoe up here.
We would not be able to do it without the support crew. Unlike winning a gold medal in most Olympic events, where it's entirely about skill and physical ability, this record has a big element of that, but it also has a big element of teamwork and cooperation and planning and strategy and luck. And that's the thing about this record. And I love this and hate this, but mostly love it about this world record.
We're creating relationships, we're creating bonds, we're creating memories together. At the end of the day, I think that's going to be the magic of the Mississippi Speed Record.
How cool is that?
Amazing.
Hey, I just
Amazing.
want to remind everybody, Wally, that you can go to wildernessmindset.com and sign up for their newsletter, and it'll give you updates about not only this but other projects that Amy and Alex have going on too.
So yeah, that's a really, really good point, Moose, that they can go to wildernessmindset.com. There's also a Facebook page that you can follow them on, and Beyond Our Project, they're a really, really neat film crew and production company, and keep an eye for a lot of the things that they put out. I'm excited that they were a part of what we were doing on the ground crew, and I'm even more excited about this documentary that's going to come out. I mean, it's
and I know that if you go to that website, it'll prompt you. There'll be a thing that comes up to subscribe to their newsletter, and they told me that's the best way to get updates on the documentary is to sign up for their newsletter. The other thing that's amazing is when they made that trailer, they threw it together really quick. They had only gone through about 30% of their footage, so it's very exciting.
What's even more amazing is that Alex put that trailer together at base camp at night. When he was off duty, he was sitting at a folding table that we had with us and managed to put together that amazing trailer, from base camp. Yeah, amazing.
It truly is. It truly is. They're not only talented individuals, they're even better human beings. So it was.
And
cool.
we're supposed to be telling stories tonight, and there's a million stories, and we're supposed to be answering questions. But I just have to say that they premiered that. Then Alex put that together, and then they premiered it in the most amazing place, which was this floating hotel in Venice, Louisiana, south of civilization in many ways. I think you can drive there. It's this furthest place south in Louisiana, and all of us. We had come into mile marker 0 at 2 or 3 in the morning. We all came to this hotel that our support crew had arranged for us to stay in. They called it a flotel. And the support crew was so incredible. They had chartered these boats so that the whole support crew could be there at the end. It was a more spectacular finish than any of us could possibly have imagined in the dead of the night, to be in this wide river filled with industrial boats and lights, and to have all of our supporters on a few different support boats. And then we climb up on the mile marker 0 buoy, and it's live streamed, and we're all screaming and yelling. And then we get on the boats, and we put the Mighty Duffus canoe on the boat and go to this floating hotel an hour away. And then we wake up in the morning, and Alex and Amy say, guys, we want to premiere the trailer right here. I mean, how spectacular was that?
Now that was the Salty Marsh, the Salty Marsh, Courtney and Jacob Morris, the Salty Marsh in Venice. Highly recommend it. Floating hotel. Awesome.
There's one critical detail that you left out, Scott, and that's when we got on Jacob's boat.
I don't know if everybody's frozen. Everybody's frozen for me.
Oh, maybe just for you.
Yeah, I think we're all right, Scott.
Perhaps
keep rolling.
Anyways, I was going to say we got onto Jacob's boat. One of the owners.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at some of these questions. I know somebody asked what was the most difficult thing to do in the canoe. I think sleep deprivation. I think all of us would agree.
Uh-oh.
We laughed because that was almost like right on cue.
It was perfect. It was just perfect.
So he was Scott. Sleep deprivation was definitely the hardest part we had to deal with in the canoe. That was so perfect because Scott would get hit with sleep deprivation, and he would be all over the place, just like that.
We actually came to nickname him Sleepy Scott when he was sleep deprived.
Yeah, it was like his alter ego. He only came out at the most dire moments.
Oh, Scott, you're back with us.
Yes, and I hear you talking about Sleepy Scott, my least favorite topic.
Sleepy Scott. Scott, I was thinking about this. I really got to apologize because I think that you thought I was being mean to you. And I perhaps my motivation ways and my ways to prompt Sleepy Scott came off as being mean. But I was
here was the problem. Here was the problem. I was embarrassed because I felt like I never should have let myself get to that position, and then I was trying to force myself to stay awake and failing. So I already had an internal monologue that was judging me. So it didn't really matter what you did. I was already in a bad state mentally. But, I learned a lot from you guys. And in that particular thing, one of the things I learned on the trip, you guys all have more racing experience. And, it's funny. I mean, I'm proud of the fact that we did this, under our own power. But I will admit we did use caffeine to help us. And I had to learn how to use caffeine appropriately so I could avoid Sleepy Scott ever making an appearance.
So, Judd, you're going to have to share at least one story about Sleepy Scott.
Oh, this is good.
So, Judd, you have to share the story about the alarm going off.
Okay. Well, and that's fair because I wasn't in a good place when the alarm went. So I think because that's just it's not just critical. God, it's also critical of whatever state of mind I was in. That was the worst night of the trip.
So, but maybe you think of a story, then Paul, you talk about the alarm going off with Sleepy Scott.
Yeah, well, yeah, I probably wouldn't tell the story as well as you would, Wally. But yeah, I was in the back with you. Wally was in the stern. I was sitting right in front of you. Scott was sleeping in front of me, and Judd was in the bow. And we were right in the midst of what we thought was a very harrowing interaction with a barge, to say the least. Right in the middle of the night, it was maybe 2 a.m. or something, and there was lots of loud and very pointed conversation going on between the bow and the stern. And then Scott pokes his head up out of the second sleep from under the canopy, looks up around, kind of like a prairie dog looking out of a hole, and just starts asking me to help him turn off his phone alarm. Right there in the middle, he couldn't turn off his phone alarm. And I'm trying to figure out if we're going to get smashed by a barge. And basically all hell's breaking loose, and Scott wants me to turn his phone alarm off.
And from my perspective, I woke up and I was disoriented, and I really hated this loud noise coming from this weird device. And I just thought, well, let me ask for some help here. And it quickly became clear no help was coming. Thank you very much. Apparently, our lives were more important than my alarm. So,
And the alarm is something like this. Whoa, 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 wah. Whoa, 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 wah. And you come out of the hole like a prairie dog. It's a perfect metaphor. And you say, hey, guys, I'm really disoriented. Stop noise.
So I couldn't decide whether to turn Scott's alarm off or help Wally paddle out of the way of this oncoming barge or what. So,
I think everybody woke up disoriented at different times. And I remember Paul had a great one where he woke up. We're all paddling. It's the middle of the night. And all of a sudden, Paul comes out and he goes, oh, my God, we're in a lake. Oh, my God.
Yeah. He goes, oh, my God, where are we? And he goes, why are we in a lake? And I go, Paul, man, it's okay. It's okay. It's we're in the Mississippi River. We're trying to break the speed record. And, okay. I had a dream I was being kidnapped and we were on a lake.
I think I was being kidnapped.
So I was like, Paul, just go to bed, man. It's all good.
So, Judd,
yeah.
Judd, everyone is saying that you were talking about one critical detail and then you got cut off. Everyone wants to know what the one critical detail is.
So we climb up mile marker 0. We climb onto Jacob's boat, the owner of the Salty Marsh. Go there. It's an amazing place. And we get onto the boat and we start to kind of come down from the ecstasy of breaking the record. And of course, Paul's a little bit cold. And then Jacob goes, hey, you guys want a beer? And he a bunch of beer. in the cooler, crack open, celebrate. It was just perfect. I mean, the end, it couldn't have possibly been better at the end. And drives us back to this flotel. We didn't know where we were going other than we were going back, whatever that meant.
Right. And we can stop paddling.
Yeah. And I will tell one more story. This is sort of jumping all over the place. But it's also like a great story about, generally speaking, what the trip was like and how important moose was to the trip. So after we finish and we tie up to mile marker 0, we climb to the top. I look at Scott and I Scott, I'm not getting back in that.
Yes.
I'm not anywhere else. And he goes, yeah. That's a good point. What should I do? And I said, I don't know. Call Moose.
And I did. I did.
Good point.
I could see Moose. He was only 200 feet away, but I just called him on the cell phone, and he said, "Yeah, we'll put your boat on the captain's boat here. We'll get your canoe up." And we did not have to get back into the mighty Duffus, which was nice.
The only thing I was thinking about that when you guys were climbing up on mile marker 0 was, oh my gosh, we come this whole way. One of them is going to fall and break their neck around the celebration the rest of us are trying to have.
So, Ruth, why don't you describe what mile marker 0 looks like?
Mile marker 0 is a massive buoy with a light on the top. I think it's called head of passes light. Mm-hmm. And it's not a buoy like you would normally think. I mean, it's this massive structure. Would you say it's 2 stories, you guys? Something
at least.
2 stories, something like that.
We had to climb up probably up 15 feet on the ladder to get to the top of the wooden platform where the metal tower started with the light on it.
Right. And if I understand correctly, you guys will have to correct me here, but there's a waterproof box there with a notebook for you to sign that Joey Cargill placed there. Why doesn't somebody say something about that?
Yeah, shout out to Joey Cargill. He put a journal in a waterproof box locked on there, and if anybody who climbs up on that buoy can sign their name in the book there.
And each of you guys did.
Yeah.
Well, I think
it was an amazing team. We had 4 boats. Sorry, Judd.
Oh, I signed it for the team. I signed it for everybody.
Okay, great. Yeah,
I must have told them 50. I'm sorry, Moose.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just going to describe the scene. We had 4 boats there. We had 43 people. We had Jacob Morris's boat that the paddlers got on with the canoe. We had Scott Mansker and Mark Handley in the Falcon. We had John Brady and George Hurlbert and Michael Cooper in the Mobetta. Amy was on one of those boats. Alex was on one of the boats. We had the 4 paddlers, and then we had this large boat that normally transfers crew back and forth to oil rigs and such that Mindy Cragness had managed to rent for us after a lot of hard work and nailing that down, that had all our family and friends on there. That had, 37 people on. So we had a total of 43 people down there at the finish, hooting and hollering, lights, horns blasting. It in the middle of the night. It was a really an unbelievable scene. Probably my favorite moment of the entire trip that I will never forget. It was really, really something.
I just saw Paul's daughter.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's quite all right.
So real quick, I'd like to remind everybody, if you're new to our live stream, welcome to the stream. If you've been watching for a while, thanks for staying with us and listening to our stories. We're having a great time talking about everything that we've done. If you're watching on Facebook, please take a moment and head over there to our YouTube channel. I'll post up the link right now, and hit a like, hit a thumbs up on our YouTube channel, and subscribe if you're not a subscriber. And likewise, if you're on the YouTube channel, head over to our Facebook and give us a like there. We are trying to get this out here about this cool live stream and the message from One Mississippi and all of the things that they've going on with the river, and not only this week, but also all of the cool things that they do. So appreciate that. Smash that like button, subscribe, comment away. We're going to try and hit a lot of these questions. If I don't hit your question, I apologize. It's not because I don't think it's a good one. We've just got a lot of things going on here, and this is not my day job. I'm just doing the best that I can. So one of the things that I want to touch on here a little bit, guys, and then I would like to have you guys talk a little bit about the trip. But we've all talked a lot about the impact of the supporters on the river for us. It blew my mind how many people actually cared about what we were doing and how many people came out to support us on the river. In fact, I am wearing a sweatshirt that was given to us by the Chamber of Commerce of Clarksville, Missouri. And it was one of the most touching moments for that whole group to come out and greet us and cheer us on the river. You know, not only give us these sweatshirts, but words of encouragement with signs, and it was just really touching. And that was just one of the things for me. And I know that we all have situations like that. So I want to throw that out to everybody. What were some of the cool memories from the supporters along the river?
I mean, I think I mentioned it earlier, but seeing several. I mean, it just was, like you said, well, it was overwhelming and extremely humbling. I was in no way prepared to get such wonderful treatment and have people encouraging and cheering for us like they did. And I remember Coon Rapids, we arrived there at night, and there was, I don't know how many folks were there, but it was really impressive and loud. And we had to do that portage, and I saw my classmate from the University of Georgia from years and years ago, and I just ran up and hugged her, and I'm so glad she hugged me back. Honestly, I was a little nervous there for a minute, but it was great. And then we got scones at another stop. It was wonderful. We got blizzards. I don't want to take everybody else's moment, but one of the other ones I remember, lots of kids. One spot we stopped at, there was several kids who kind of skipped school for river education, and I love that. And it just brightened my day. And again, I wasn't at all prepared for that sort of love that we got. And we all cried, I think, in the boat at least once over it. I mean, I'm sure of that. So thank you, all of you who showed up and are on the video. I really, really appreciate it.
So, all right. I'm going to hijack this conversation real quick. Daniela, who was on our support crew, brought something up, and I haven't heard anything about this. She says she wants to hear how Moose got into the wrong car.
Well, sleep deprivation did impact some of the support crew as well. Yeah, I was at a convenience store, and I was driving Brad Sjostrom's Ram 4-door pickup truck, white pickup truck. And I had pulled up and I had filled it with gas, and I had gone in the store to pick up some coffee and some other things. And I came out, and there was a white pickup truck parked right outside the building. And so I climbed in the driver's seat, and I look over, and there's a woman sitting there. And she's looking at me with this fear in her eye. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I got her in the wrong car. I had climbed into the wrong vehicle, just, in my sleep deprived state. So yeah, that put a little fear in the woman, but I think she ended up being fine. Her husband or somebody must have been inside. Yeah. And then I finally found the right car and made my way back to base camp.
Oh my God. Well, how come we're not hearing about this until now? That's what I want to
Well,
right?
Because I apparently I didn't pay Daniela enough to not mention it.
Oh, that's a good story.
So, all right, I digress a little bit. Scott, what were some of your thoughts about the people that came out?
Well, we've already established that I like to eat. I was eating on this live stream already. I remember the food people brought us. from their restaurants that they owned or their friends owned. On multiple occasions, we got special treats. I remember the barbecue sandwich in Natchez, I think it was, from a restaurant there that came at a really great time. I remember the burgers and the chicken sandwiches, I think somewhere in Iowa that someone brought to us. I remember, of course, the muffaletta that the captain brought to us at the end, and the lemon pies. And so, you know.
So I got to explain what a muffaletta is. A muffaletta is like this sandwich. It's about the size of a Frisbee. That's got like all of this good stuff in it, like a muffaletta. And the captain, the river pilot, brought out this big old muffaletta. He brought out 2 muffalettas for our group, as well as like little, what do you say, like hand pies? I don't know what you call them, but little hand pies for each one of us.
Yeah, like Hostess fruit pies, except homemade.
And we devoured those pies in about 30 seconds flat. I mean, we were like Cookie Monster taking those things down. Num, 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 right? But then we had these muffalettas. They were like the size, like I said, the size of a Frisbee. And we didn't know how to eat a muffaletta. So we ended up passing around like this big old, like Frisbee-sized sandwich. Like we pass it to each other on a paddle. Like we put it on the paddle, we'd pass it on the paddle to the next guy. And he'd take about 5 or 6 bites. He'd put it on his paddle and pass it to the next guy. And we pass it back and forth.
This is the key. The key to the muffaletta is the chopped salty olive layer. That was so good.
So good.
Yeah.
Yes. And speaking of pies, as long as we're on this stuff, what about the moon pies there, Paul?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I was the lone Southerner on the trip, and we spent a bulk of our time, in the North and Midwest. And we got in Arkansas. I knew I was among my people when I was presented at a boat ramp with a moon pie, which I reluctantly shared with my teammates so they could experience the goodness that is from Chattanooga, Tennessee. That was so great. I mean, it's perfect time.
So my favorite, there's a great story behind that too. We had set up at a boat ramp just outside of Osceola, which is what we would call it, but the people there call it Osceola. We set up at a boat ramp just outside Osceola, and we were doing all of our stuff, setting up everything. And as we're like busy scurrying about, around the corner comes this flat bottom fishing boat, and we just had taken up the whole boat ramp, and they were coming into the boat ramp. And I rather excitedly, Moose is saying, "We got to move the boat. We got to move the boat. Somebody's coming in. We're hogging the ramp." So quickly, everybody moved the boat. We had no idea what to expect from these guys that were just coming in. And so anyway, the guys come in, they kind of park their boat and they look at us inquisitively, and they said, "What y'all doing?" And I think that at that point, I don't remember who it was. I think it might have been you, Moose, or Judd's. He said, "We're a canoe. We're a canoe team, and we're trying to set a new world record about going down the entire length of the Mississippi River." And the guy takes a look and he's like, "Oh, you guys trying to get in that Guinness book?"
The rest of the trip, Wally couldn't stop saying Guineas.
Our Guinness record. But anyways, they ended up being the nicest guys. They shared with us everything that they had in their cooler, Gatorade, and then the piece de resistance. When he says, "Oh, I'd share with you my moon pies, but you guys probably don't want to eat anything like that." That's all Paul Cox needed.
Yeah, so a moon pie is it's like a big marshmallow. It's a cookie with like a cracker, like a graham crackery kind of. It's sandwiched between that is like marshmallow, and it's coated in chocolate. So Lisa was asking what a moon pie is, and it's very, very yummy. I mean, to me at least, it was great. I think you guys liked it. We ended up like breaking it into like, I don't know, at least 5 or 6 different pieces, but it was it hit the stomach the right time for sure.
There we go. Made in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's a cookie and marshmallow covered in chocolate. So
delicious.
Beth Armand is sharing a cool story that she was there at the La Crosse shore stop, and she heard a young boy about 4 say to his dad, "They live on that boat?"
I got to say something about Beth Armin. So Beth Armin is George Armin's wife, and George Armin is one of the greatest paddlers to ever live, and he is he is one of my mentors in paddling. And I think on the last attempt, Scott, he worked with you a bit as well in your team.
Yep.
Yeah, he's truly a remarkable paddler and an even more remarkable human being, and so is Beth. And anyways, I just want to point out that a lot of what I know about paddling and what I've learned about paddling is because of them. So, anyway.
Yeah, one example of the advice that George gave us was, when you're holding a canoe paddle, you've got your lower hand on the shaft just above the blade, and then your upper hand on the handle. And most people, it turns out, according to George, and I would agree wholeheartedly, they pull too hard with their lower hand. He said it really should be 50-50. Your upper hand should be doing half the work. But in order for the upper hand to do half the work, it's going to feel to you like it's doing 80% of the work. And I've never forgotten that as a way to get the top hand more involved and have better body mechanics.
Yeah, incredibly. When I was 21 years old, 42 now for he was with me at the 7th Street boat race, and he had me put the paddle blade on the concrete so that I would, and he told me to push down and pull back such that the blade doesn't, you apply equal pressure down and back, and the blade just won't slide across. And he worked on that with me literally 21 years ago. And he every time I get in the boat with him, I learn something else.
Hey, Scott, last night we had a call with the support crew, and John Brady made a comment that really stuck with me, that the river, there's something spiritual about it that brings people together. And there was a very meaningful moment on the trip that I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing about. It was an email that you got that I think started something like that: the strangest request you'll get all day.
So a guy named Bill Lawrenson reached out to us, and this is a perfect example, Moose, of what you're talking about. His adult son had passed away at the way too young age of 42. And I don't remember his exact relationship to New Orleans. Maybe he went to school there, or maybe he just loved the city, or both.
He had a friend. He went to school at Iowa State, and he had a friend that went to Tulane, so he used to go down to visit his friend all the time in New Orleans.
So Bill asked us if we would be willing to take some of his son's ashes with us on the entire trip and put them in the river in New Orleans. And it really is a good example, because not only did he have the courage to ask us to do that, and it became sort of it gave us even more purpose to our trip. And then Roy, who was on the support team, was still coming up to your cabin. Everybody was already gathered up north, but I got a hold of Roy, and he's a great guy, and he agreed to swing by and meet Bill and get this little envelope of ashes. And then, miracle of miracles, we stowed it in a dry bag in the middle of the canoe. And I'm sure Bill would like to know that dry bag, we often would, it had other things in it, but it was the same color as the dry bag that had all our bathroom materials. And fortunately, we were able to keep those straight the entire time. And then we finally got down to New Orleans, and Wally knew exactly where we should go, which is this place called Algiers Point, which is the deepest part of the whole river. And you've got the incredible sights of downtown New Orleans there, and a beautiful cathedral. And we just took a solemn few minutes out of our schedule of setting this record to pay homage. And then we had Scott Duffus, who's a retired Lutheran pastor, on our support crew. He crafted a few words that we said. And so it's just another example of a team effort. You had Moose involved, Roy involved, Scott Duffus involved, and then we had a fan involved in Bill, and then the four of us making sure we got it done. So yeah, it was totally awesome.
For sure. And it was one of the most poignant moments of our trip too, just to be in kind of one of the seminal parts of the Mississippi River right there in New Orleans at the deepest point, and just having a real emotional moment. Kind of encapsulated the whole process, didn't it?
It really did. And I just have been thinking about a story that I haven't really thought of in this way until now that I'd like to share, which is that in terms of teamwork between the four paddlers, I felt like our teamwork and our communication got better and better throughout the trip. And everybody was really flexible about the sleep schedule. And we all took care of each other to make sure whoever really needed sleep got it when they needed it. And we were all so dialed into each other's needs that by the time we got to the last day, guys, I don't know if any of you have thought about this in this way, but I realized none of us discussed the sleep schedule for like the last 30 some hours. Everybody just knew without even talking what was going to happen. It just without even talking. So, you know, it would have been easy to push too far and to not get any sleep that last day, even though we all needed it, but we didn't have to talk about it. Each guy took, you know, about 2 hours. And then without even talking, all four of us locked in. I don't remember if that was for 10 hours or 8 hours. And then without even talking, and it felt like a spirit overtook the canoe. It really did. The last 2 or 3 hours. I mean, we'd been paddling for so long and so hard. And then to all four paddle for that last 8 hours. And then especially the last 2 or 3 hours, the speed just picked up. And everybody was perfectly in sync, and all four paddlers. And then we had the crowd of people cheering, and I'll never forget that. It felt like we were possessed by some amazing, you know, force.
Well, if I could add to that a little bit, Scott, at least in terms of like that force, we, after we had left New Orleans, we had been fighting a headwind, and it was really like wavy, really choppy. And we knew at that point that we had enough in the bank that we were going to set the record. Or, you know, that it was going to be, something big would need to come up in order for us not to set the record. But man, it looked like it was going to be a really difficult end to our trip, because the waves we had this headwind, and the headwind, for those of you who don't know, when the headwind comes the opposite direction of a current, it creates just a really like a washing machine chop to whatever body of water it is. And it was just, we spent about 6 hours just really muscling the canoe through, maybe even closer to 8, just muscling the canoe through some really, really bad water. And I would say right about the same time when we were dialing in this sleep schedule, we pulled over to a dock and we switched spots in the canoe. And I don't know if you guys were thinking the same thing I was thinking. I was thinking, all right, we're buckling it down, and we're going to have to fight to the very end for this record. And I think as we were going out, Moose, you said, I heard the weather's supposed to get better. And we pulled away, and just as we were starting to pull away, the waves started to die down, and they died down. And within a half an hour, the river was glass, and it was the most idyllic paddling conditions you could possibly ask for. And I think myself personally, I never felt at ease. Everybody can speak to this, but I never ever felt at ease about getting the record. I would prevent everybody in the boat from talking about it just because I had these superstitious tendencies, and I just did not want to talk about that. But soon as that river got calm and everybody just started to get in tune, it felt like you said, it felt like we had something come over us. And I think possessed would be a negative way to put it, but just it felt like we had angels underneath us.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But Wally, I would say, didn't we decide you weren't superstitious? You were just a little stitious?
That's right. That's right.
So I want to make a couple of comments about that. So I was in the bow for most of that really nasty wind, which actually I love being in the bow for a big wave wind. I think it's blast, although physically it's incredibly taxing. And while you were back, and I did have to, we still had, when we pulled over, I think we still had like 60
50
miles,
miles. We had
40
50.
something. And we pull over to switch spots. And of course, I'm like, I'm ready to go. I'll stay in the bow. And I remember a couple of things happening. Wally, you said, Judd, go to bed.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, I will go to bed. So I slept for, I think, 2 hours right after that, which was a great decision. And there's 3 things I remember. The other is that, and so I got a hug, and that was like the best feeling ever. And then the third thing was that as soon as Scott and Scott went into the stern, Paul went into the bow. Wally, I think he went into seat 3 and started paddling there. The Mississippi River just glassed out. Like it had never glassed out before. And it was almost like the Mississippi was saying to us, okay, guys, here's your chance. Don't mess it up. And then we went to the end, and it was glass until the end. And not that long after we finished, a huge storm came through that frankly, I was so tired that I didn't even know about. But it was truly remarkable.
Yeah, I remember Moose saying those same words and thinking, yeah, it's going to be a really, really tough last 50 miles when I climbed in the bow. But we had to go around a little building, right? We changed. And as soon as we came around, it's like it went glass. I mean, it was just amazing. And so the last 50 miles were just the best water, I think. There was almost no current, right? Because you're getting so close to the Gulf. But the water conditions were ideal. So it was absolutely beautiful. And, the sun was setting, and couldn't have asked for a more beautiful, I think, ending weather-wise.
So
Go ahead, Walt.
Scott, I was going to change the subject. So if you wanted to.
I was just going to say, don't forget the sound of the cows mooing, echoing across the water.
Gosh,
that was the most unexpected thing for me. As it turns out, in the Delta, there's cows, and sound carries across the water unbelievably. So there we are paddling, and then there's these incredibly weird cow noises.
I think it was a bull cow who was looking for some friendly companionship, because it was demonic, honestly.
It was. It really was.
Yeah. So I wanted to touch on 2 things that that were brought up in the discussion, and I'm just going to throw that out there. The first one is I get a lot of people ask about the sleep situation, and how do we arrange sleeping?
Yeah, so we had created it's a 23-foot canoe, and there was 2 bulkheads, meaning a little wall that sectioned off the canoe completely. So, for example, if water came into the bow, it would hit this wall. It wouldn't be able to travel back further. This wall was just behind the bow paddler's seat, the front paddler's seat. And just in front of the stern paddler's feet was another one of these bulkheads. So the middle 9.5 or 10 feet of the canoe was sectioned off by these bulkheads that actually rose above the gunnels a few inches. And that allowed for a canopy cover to be placed over the entire sleeping section with Lexan ribs that bowed about 6 inches or 8 inches above the gunnels. So it was like a little tent. And so we could have the guys in seat 2 and seat 3, they could remove their seats while we were underway, and one or both of them could go to sleep. And so approximately 14 hours a day, we would have 3 people paddling and 1 guy sleeping. And then at night for approximately 8 hours, we'd have 2 guys sleeping. So when people ask if we have to go to shore or not, the great thing is for those 16 hours during the day, if we went to shore to switch positions, the 2 guys in the middle, one of them would paddle while the other one slept for about 3 hours or 4 hours. And then they'd switch while we were still underway. The guy would build his compartment to paddle in, and the other guy would take down his to go to sleep. So we did have to go to shore to switch positions between the bow and the stern. Those 2 guys would go in the middle, and the 2 guys in the middle would go to the ends of the canoe. But it was nice that we could go about 6 to 8 hours without having to go to shore.
Here's a good picture of our canoe. I'm sharing a picture right now. A good picture of our canoe with the sleep setup, with seat 2 being the seat that's down with the cover and the Lexan cover, and how we had it set up. And you can see in the middle there, Paul has taken his seat out so that he could lie down underneath that. And when he was done, he would simply put his seat back in. And then I would take, I'm in seat 3 at this point. I would take my seat out and then lay on the other side. And that's how we would sleep.
And, you know, for insider information for people that are joining this live stream, you know, we tried to keep water out of there, but it would get wet down in there. And at times it was damp and smelly, and it was, you know, but you became so exhausted, you didn't generally care. You just got down there. And even if there was a bunch of gear in your way that you should rearrange to make it more comfortable, I think half the time people just fell asleep in any old position because you were so exhausted.
I think we coined the phrase "people stew." When you get water in there and you're laying in it, and then the next guy gets in there and lays in it, and it just becomes this soggy mess. That's a pretty vivid picture, I guess.
Scott Manser referred to the canoe as a big yellow petri dish floating down the river.
That's true.
Yes, and I know at times some of us and some of our gear and some of the canoe at various times, the Moose, I think you can attest to this, because the support crew would take some of our stuff to wash it, or some of the bags that had hydration in it. And I know you guys had to deal with some pretty horrible smells.
You know, it's funny how you get used to it. You know, I think I do want to mention, it's been mentioned before, but how much we all, I can't say enough about Scott Mansker and John Brady and Mark Handley and George Hurlbert and Michael Cooper and the safety boats, and I mean the river, it can be a very, very dangerous place, and those guys have been along for so many training trips and along, you know, for the first attempt and this attempt and all the training, and what a fantastic job they've done, and what wonderful people they are. And I know you guys can attest to that more than anyone.
So real quick, this is one of the boats, Falcon. This was the one that was the main one that we would interact with. And keep talking here, and I'm going, as these guys are talking, I'm going to see if I can find a picture of the Mobetta, which was the other one. That was the houseboat.
Yeah, and while we're talking boats, I don't want to forget to mention all the amazing modifications done by Scott Duffus. He made that boat livable for 3 weeks. He added electronics, switches, batteries, the cover. We had to start off with a hull that was commercially available, but outside of that, we could make modifications to make it river worthy for 3 weeks, and it kept the water out when we were in the big barge wakes, and it was just an amazing job by Scott to constantly throughout the whole process of getting ready to go on the attempt. He would take our suggestions and then incorporate them into the changes. It was just an amazing effort.
So here's a picture of the Mobetta, and to springboard off of your comments, I'm going to see if I can find a picture of the canoe, and maybe you guys can, when I find this a good picture.
You know, that made those modifications were such a huge benefit to the support crew, because on the first attempt, we were trying to change batteries and get the navigation tablets in and out to recharge them, and the GPSs and such. And I mean, this time everything was wired. We had to change one battery one time a day. I mean, it was such a huge improvement that all of them that Scott did that just improved the safety and lowered the anxiety and the stress of having to address those things. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, there were literally dozens of things that he did. I mean, you can see the rear white light pole in this picture. And last time we only had one light. And like Moose said, it had to be turned off by the support crew every morning and at night if we remembered, and the batteries had to be changed. This time it was wired into the central electrical system, and at the flip of a switch it would turn on. Plus we had 2 lights in back, one halfway or partway up the pole and one at the top. That allowed the safety boats to know how far away they were from us, because they could tell how close together those 2 lights were in their field of vision. Another thing, Moose, you may remember, the support crew spent a lot of time fixing the rudder on the first attempt.
Yes.
Scott Duffus, and along with Ryan Slebos, who makes these rudders specialized for the Min 4 for the MR340 community. Our rudder system didn't fail us this time. It was really robust. The rudder cables and the rudder pedals really served us well. And there's just literally dozens of examples of things Scott Duffus did. There was drain holes that we could pull out in the bulkheads to let water come through, and that ended up being useful a couple of times, and many, many other things.
So one of the things I also want to point out that we don't get a lot of questions, but I'm sure a lot of people ask about. Scott, can you talk about the GPS unit and what we used to navigate and how that was installed in the boat?
Yeah, so the biggest thing we need to have Guinness certify our record, which will hopefully happen sometime in the next month or two, is to have a robust GPS track. They actually want it to ping every 2 minutes. So we did a lot of experimenting with that, and Scott Duffus figured out how to mount. We had both the Garmin InReach and a Spot device. And in this picture that Wally has up on the screen, you can see a little yellow helmet-looking container rising up there. That was attached to the canoe, and that housed both GPS units, and it made it so that their antenna could be free and clear to the sky, which is important to get a good track. So we actually got a very robust and better GPS track on this trip than the last one, because we had learned how important that was, and because they could be hardwired into the boat, so they had power the entire time, so they didn't die. The other thing in that little housing that made it dark in there so we could see and kept it protected from the rain was a tablet that ran the Pro Paddler app, the Mississippi River Pro Paddler app, which is available. Anyone can purchase it through the App Store. And the guy who developed that, his name is John Marble. He actually developed this website and app called Race Owl, which dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of paddle races use all across the nation to track their paddlers so people can see where everybody's at. And he, I think, got his start in the Missouri River 340 community and developed the Race Owl app first for the 340 and a navigation app for the Missouri River. And then we actually helped him create Joel Ford from the previous team in particular helped create this Pro Paddler app. And that navigation app allowed us to stay in the fast water, in the channel, and know where to go and know where the next ramps were. And it would even count down to the 10th of a mile how close we were to the next ramp where we would meet our crew. So we're very thankful for that app.
For sure. For sure. Excuse me here.
Hey, Wally.
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, so someone had asked how heavy the boat was, and then it looks off the portage.
Right.
I will say the boat was awfully heavy.
Incredibly heavy.
It was just, from someone that comes from a racing background, there were times where I just couldn't believe how heavy we had the boat. But
yes, yes.
I mean, a guy who fills holes in things to make them lighter. There were moments where I just couldn't believe how unbelievably heavy it was. But then when you thought about, well, what are we going to take out of it? There wasn't that much that you really take out of it.
No.
It's stuff that we needed.
Maybe that boom on the front.
Front was, if you were in the bow, that boom in the front was just, yeah, that was.
I thought it was waving at me the whole time.
How much weight? How much of the weight in there was hydration, though? I mean, that came up yesterday.
A lot.
Yeah.
But it was also, I mean, I drank almost everything I was given most of the time. What are you going to do?
Well, we did try to run the headwaters as light as possible. So I think that was obviously a really good move, because there's in its expedition state, if you want to call it that, for the lower river, it would have been extremely difficult to paddle that boat through the headwaters over those beaver dams. So I think that was a really smart move. But I mean, it was hundreds of pounds, I mean, easily.
It was just so heavy. And someone actually, to the point about the headwaters, someone had asked about that first 30 miles.
And yes, what I'd like to do, hold that thought real quick, Judd, because what I would like to do is take a moment to talk about the different parts of the Mississippi. And maybe you can talk a little bit about the first 30 miles. Scott, you can talk about the upper Mississippi until you get to about Minnesota. Then Judd, you can talk about it. I'm sorry, Minneapolis. And then Judd, you can talk about it from Minneapolis to like St. Louis. And then Paul, if you could talk about it from St. Louis, from the confluence on down to the Gulf of Mexico, that'd be great.
Sure.
All right. So Judd, why don't you start with the beginning part?
Well, I think for almost all of us, if not, I think for all of us, perhaps, but maybe not. The beginning part was the most fun. Frankly, after we did the first 100 miles, if somebody told me that I could just do that 25 times, 23 times or whatever it was, and that would be good, I would have taken a heartbeat. It was skinny, technically very challenging, physically difficult, unbelievably beautiful. I mean, the beauty of the upper river, of the headwaters, is almost impossible to describe. There's like trumpet swamps, there's wild rice swamplands, there's skinny boreal forests type ecosystems. I mean, it's just incredibly beautiful, technically challenging, physically difficult, and unbelievably fun. And so that's how I would describe the upper river. And then I think.
Then can you take it away from there a little bit, Scott?
Well, so the part that Judd is describing, the first 50 miles between Itasca and Bemidji, is very distinctive. And it does have these little rapids, and it has kind of these bluffs in the forest, and then it has these big wild rice wetlands that you paddle through. It is just extraordinary. I couldn't agree more. Then you go into kind of the three big lakes section, Bemidji, Cass, and Winnibigoshish, which has its own feel, and there's some smaller lakes as well. And then you're in the wilds, just in the wilds of these big swamps, and it's a slow river as you make your way to Grand Rapids. And then it's an amazing statistic that very few people realize, is that it's 500 river miles from the source at Itasca to the Twin Cities. So, you know, about a fifth of the whole trip is above the commercial section of the river, above where the barges are. And, you know, if you talk to people affiliated with the Army Corps of Engineers, they often think of the river as beginning in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So it's amazing to think that there's really 500 miles upstream of that. The straight line distance from the Twin Cities to Itasca is maybe half that. I'm not sure exactly, but it's just that the river twists and turns so much and makes like a huge question mark shape from Itasca to Bemidji, to Grand Rapids, to Brainerd, to Little Falls, to St. Cloud. And Moose's cabin happens to be in the middle of this 3/4 circle, the top part of the question mark, which meant that the support crew could base out of his cabin for the first few days, which was just an extraordinary coincidence when we were planning all of this. Anyway, the 500 miles, there's about 14 dams, there's portages, but it's all very, very beautiful. And then you get to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and everything changes because now you've got locks and dams and barges.
So then, Judd, why don't you pick up from Minneapolis there?
So from Minneapolis on down to St. Louis, basically.
So let me just back up. I think that there are some really cool human stories that I don't want to pass up. And were there any human stories on our trip that, you know, when I say human stories, just interaction that you can recall about that upper section, Scott?
I mean, the woman that brought us scones, I remember that was an amazing thing, just because they were so incredibly tasty and she was so nice.
And she brought her daughter.
And she brought her daughter. Just amazing. Yeah.
Was it just a daughter? Or did she have 2 kids? I can't remember. I think
She had 2 kids with her.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they were, yes. And that was always touching when people would bring their children to see us.
You know, and then there was the woman that brought us Dairy Queen Blizzards, and we went to get them from, I can't remember if it was Frank Burris that had them, and we were going too fast and we were unable to grab them, and they were going to melt. So it was like, well, you guys missed out. And I felt so bad because I didn't get to have a blizzard, but also because this woman had gone out of her way. So I think Amy and Alex ended up getting to eat the blizzards. And then this woman was so kind. She went out and got new ones. And 6 hours later, we were able to get our blizzards. So
that blew my mind. And the reason why she got the blizzards is because you were joking with somebody about how you'd love to have a blizzard right now.
Hey, don't forget the Bemidji Fire Department, Scott.
Oh my God. One of the first portages we came to, I think it's the County 12 Dam just east of Bemidji. We got there, I think it was getting dark. And in 2021, on that attempt, the Bemidji Fire Department was staging a practice fire drill at this dam, and we had to alter our whole portage, but they ended up helping us on the portage, and it was so cool. And this time we got there, and they wanted to meet us there, but they had a fire call, but then somehow some of them ended up being able to be there, and they gave us a t-shirt they wanted us to wear at mile marker 0 if we were to make it that far, which we were happy. We were so excited to put that on when we got to mile marker 0, but it was just cool to have the support and encouragement of these awesome firemen up in the North Woods.
All right. So then Judd, we get to Minneapolis, and I know that one of my most vivid memories once we got to Minneapolis, because I was sleeping until we got to Minneapolis, or when we went through Minneapolis. Minneapolis was kind of cool because it was an urban setting that the river went through.
Yeah.
That's your cue to start.
Okay.
Sleep deprivation is still got a hold of.
No, I wasn't sure if you were done. You know, I don't always pick up on social cues very. But anyways, yeah, and in fact, there were one of the really special things about Minneapolis. First of all, is that Scott had a bunch of friends and family who were there, and then I had some really, really close friends. Their entire family came to. I mean, it was really spectacular to see all these people. And I think it was kind of in the middle of the night, if I recall.
And it was. It was raining, and we were like emotional. One of the neat things about it is that we were so like raw as humans because we were emotionally drained. We were just like,
right.
What you see is what you got for us. We didn't have the energy to fake it.
Yeah, right. And so anyway, so we do these long portages, but we have all these people joining us. I mean, it was just so special. People like lighting our pathway, and then we get into the river at the very end of the final portage through the Twin Cities, they're called. And our support boats are there. We walk down, we put our canoe in the water, and Scott Mansker and the Falcon is the Wide World of Sports song from ESPN. I mean, it was just awesome. We get in the river and start paddling. We have our support boats with us now, shepherding us down the rest of the river. And this section of the river is the section that I live on. Scientists call this the upper river. Paddlers generally refer to it as the middle section of the river. And eventually make our way to Red Wing, Lake Pepin, which was really hard because it was so windy and wavy, and then my hometown La Crosse. And in my hometown La Crosse, I get to see children. That there's hardly anything more special because they came out to see me on the river. I think it was around La Crosse-ish when Daniela joined our support team as well, which was this massive place of excitement and a surge. And then Murphy, of course, joined the team as well, the dog. And I think Scott was the most happy about Murphy. Because every time he would get out, Scott would go, "Oh, Murphy!" And this section of the river is the lock and dam section. And somehow we don't exactly know how many locks and dams there are because we never really can remember. Because 5A, but then there's 24 or whatever.
Right.
No 23. Yeah.
There's a 26 or 27-ish. Someone will chime in and tell us how many there are. There's about 26 or 27 locks and dams. And then the last one being in St. Louis. And those locks and dams slow the water down quite a bit. They what previously was a lot of the drop out of the river, and they also really compartmentalize the river into what are called pools, and so upstream of them, often miles and miles, it's pretty.
Hey, Judd, can you do me a favor? Can you bring the microphone a little bit closer to you? You're cutting out a little bit. Or
I'm gonna have to do the put the phone right by my face, but I sure can. So, anyways, I mean, basically, I was talking about the locks and dams. And the locks and dams make the river navigable for commercial traffic from basically the St. Louis area to Minneapolis, but they also take a lot of the current and flow and drop out of the river, and compartmentalize the river in things called pools. And so that's really what the next would have been next 1,000 miles or so of the river were like.
So, and this is a part of the river that I kind of visualize. I know that it's the part that runs by Illinois, the state that I live in, and it was kind of neat. And I'd like to share a story that has two parts that were real special to me. Boy Scouts have always been a real special part of my life. I'm an Eagle Scout, and in fact, there were 5 Eagle Scouts that were involved in this trip. Scott's an Eagle Scout. There were 2 in the boat. And I've been involved with Troop 40 here in Yorkville, Illinois, since my son was old enough to become a Boy Scout. And before that, Pac 350 here in Yorkville. And as we were traveling down the river, once in Minnesota, and then once again in Savannah and Okawaka, and there was another spot where they went. I can't remember where. Okawaka. Tim Murphy, who is a good friend of mine from Troop 40, who had moved to Minnesota, came out and cheered us on and was wearing his Troop 40 T-shirt. And then down the river, the Peters family came out to see me and brought the Cub Scout Pack's flag, was waving it out, and it was a really, really, those were really special moments for me to see those people that were a big part of my life come out and support me on the river. So as my friend Stella, who's on here, points out, big shout out to Troop 40 and a big shout out to the overachievers that they were to come out and support the Mississippi Speed record. So I digress. So coming down through St. Louis, and Paula, I'll let you talk a little bit about what it was like when we started to come into St. Louis, because things started to pick up as we started getting to Alton, right? Oop, your mic is off, bud.
Okay, better. Thanks. Sorry about that. So yeah, after the last lock, we have what's called the Chain of Rocks, just upstream of St. Louis, and that was, I think we'd all kind of look forward to it, is this massive rapid right in the middle of the river. But at the same time, you know, we just had to get through it. It was like one of those things that you looked forward to doing, but at the same time knew that, you had to get through it without too much excitement or certainly any drama. So fortunately, the water was really high, so we were able to just scoot right through that with no trouble at all. Scott was in the stern, and he knew the line to take, and just lined us up with the Scott Mansker, who was in the Falcon, one of our support boats, and we just rode it without any drama at all. So, and then you get into St. Louis, and seeing that arch from the river was just something that I'll never forget. I mean, it's just so massive. I've actually been up in the arch before, so I was familiar with it, of course, but seeing it from the river is just an amazing perspective. And there's a picture that somebody took. I don't know who it was. I think someone shared it from the shore, but our boat is so tiny. I mean, when you look at compared to the massive enormity of the arch, and it was just a great scene. But at the same time, the Port of St. Louis is just this crazy busy industrial area too. So I was super concerned. I know we were all a bit concerned about getting through that without much trouble, and we were all just kind of watching very carefully. So we made it through there, and it gets actually after 20 miles or so south of St. Louis, it becomes real beautiful again. Beautiful bluffs, and what's the name of the rock, Scott Miller, that is so famous for just jutting out of, like, you could walk to it at some points. I'll put you on the.
Is it Castle Rock?
Yeah, Tower Rock.
Tower Rock.
That, I mean, there's some really, really, and I'm from Atlanta, and our rivers are like, maybe a football field wide, because we measure everything by the length of a football field. So this whole thing, although during our training trips, I paddled quite a few spots in the Mississippi, it was just amazing to me. I mean, I really, it was like just completely new. And I thought that was a beautiful area until we got to the confluence of the Ohio River. And it's still beautiful, but at that point, it just grows. The river just gets even more massive, and the barge traffic is there.
So real quick, so the Mississippi River is huge at that point, coming through St. Louis, right? But what happens right there at Fort Defiance?
So the Ohio River comes in, and it just grows, and I don't know, how much bigger does it grow?
So at that point, the Ohio River is actually a bigger river than the Mississippi River, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that right?
I think it's often bigger. I think they're pretty close to equal, but sometimes one of them can be bigger than the other. But basically, it doubles in size. Yeah.
And the water was super confused. And I know Wally and I both shared the same sentiment later. Like, if we're looking at another 1,000 miles of this, we're going to be in trouble, because you just had to be on your guard the whole time. I mean, you're just watching, making sure the boat was lined up just the right way to all the wakes from the barges and the wakes and the waves caused by the wind. But it actually got much better fairly quickly. And so we just kind of settled into a really long paddle section that took us toward Memphis. And I tell you, when there were scenes that reminded me, honestly, like of the coast of South Carolina. I mean, we saw seagulls, and it was just like so foreign to what I was used to seeing, and so big and vast. I mean, that's the word that I used to describe it. And we didn't see people for forever. When you paddle through the part of the Mississippi that is bordered by Arkansas, except for the two wonderful guys at the boat ramp we described earlier, I don't remember seeing anyone. I mean, it's just this extremely remote, beautiful, open wilderness area, except for John Reschke too. Can't forget him and his beautiful canoe. But I mean, it's just like you're, far 1,000 miles from anywhere. So I really appreciated that. It emphasized how small and how, you are in the whole grand scheme of things. And actually, it was a bit of a lonely feeling too. It was a lot of strange feelings kind of mixed up together, awe-inspiring, lonely, and but it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. The bird life. I mean, I just could watch birds all day, watch them dart up and down and into the water, and watching the eagles fly over and the pelicans, and it's just it was just gorgeous. But the barge traffic around Memphis was extremely. I think Scott Mansker said it was like a conga line of barges. We went through Memphis at I think it was about 4 a.m. we actually decided to pull over for a couple hours because at that point it was just not worth the risk of trying to stay in the main part of the river with all those barges. And then as it winds its way down to Louisiana, you go through Natchez. I mean, that's just a beautiful town up on a bluff. I mean, it's just gorgeous. And then when you get to Baton Rouge, you are definitely aware of the industrial nature of the river. I mean, we paddled through Baton Rouge at night, parts of it, and it was just wild with the refineries and all that industry around, and ocean-going vessels. I mean, they were actually the biggest issues, I think, as far as weight goes, were from the tugs. These massive, 10-story high ocean-going like that one, I just showed you. Those guys hardly kicked up a wake at all, and they would sneak up to you in the middle of the night. You didn't hear them so much as just kind of feel them approach you from behind. Then you look over, and then you're looking up, and you're like, "My God, it's huge!" But there was almost no wake. It was just a big thing. And then
the tugs in the back, right? You can see them in this picture. Like the ones that would push the boats. Those were the ones that gave us the worst wakes.
Yeah. We nearly came undone a few times. I think Scott did a masterful job at one point. I think Wally and Judd, you were trying to sleep until you got hit by a massive barge wake in the face.
I'm going to have to stop you right here because I want to add a really fun story. When we were down in the area from Baton Rouge to the Delta, we were lucky enough to have some really experienced river pilots to guide us down the river from the support boat. And for those of you guys who don't know what the river pilots are guys that are trained and are experts in the river from Baton Rouge to the ocean. And when an ocean-going vessel comes to the Delta, they have to have a river pilot on board to take them through that area. So we had 3 experienced river pilots come with us. And one of the river pilots, and his name escapes me, and I feel bad about it, but it's the same pilot who gave us the muffalettas.
Phil Gandolfi.
So he was a real talker on the radio to all of the ships that came by. And when they would come by, he would say something about, yeah, I'm with a support boat for a canoe that's coming down the river trying to set a new world record. So we're going to be passing by you on the ones. Can you throw us a slow ball as we pass by? And I love that because the slow ball meant for the ship to slow down so we wouldn't get any wakes.
And they did. I mean, it was remarkable how much I think that helped because at least I noticed it. I think y'all would agree that the wakes were much less toward the end, thankfully. Yeah. Thank you, Amy. Yeah, Captain Phil. I mean, it was tremendous help. And then I think when we got to New Orleans, we'd all been chanting. And growing up, I always figured New Orleans was right near the end of the river, and it kind of is in the grand scheme. But you still have 90 miles to go. And we talked about how the end went, but yeah, it's. I was being from the South and being from an area that doesn't have huge rivers. I was completely in awe of the vastness of just the river valley, if you want to call it that. Just it's so huge. I mean, and without development, except in Iowa, where so many people live on stilts, which I thought was pretty cool. But that's the perspective of
stick houses.
Hey, I just want to do a quick shout out to those 3 captains. It was Joe McKee, who's a pilot, also the owner of Rose River Touring there, and then Pat Gale was the second pilot who helped us out, and then Phil Gandolfi was the third in the muffaletta and pie guy. Yeah, 3 wonderful individuals that really helped us navigate from Baton Rouge down to the Gulf.
Somebody's telling us about, don't forget the shower at Alton. And that's just another example of how much help we had. Somebody arranged, I apologize, I don't remember who. I mean, we had a support boat guy that lived near Alton that came out for a little while in his boat. And then I don't know if it was him or somebody else arranged for the Alton Marina for us to get showers there. And man, that was we needed those showers.
Yeah. Yeah, they even came and opened early, I think, so that the boats could fuel up and you guys could get in and take a quick shower. You were in and out of there in a short period of time. They were wonderful.
I also wanted to, I don't know if he's on watching, but wanted to give a shout out to my friend Reggie Hannaful, who in lacrosse set off like a gazillion fireworks.
Oh my God, that was great.
And if that wasn't enough, then he drove down to Prairie Sheen and he set off like a gazillion more fireworks for us. It was so cool. And actually, Daniela and of course Murphy and I were out for a paddle not too long ago, and we or maybe we were out in our boat. It doesn't matter. But we ran into him, and I haven't seen him since he lit the fireworks off for us. You know, he and was like so many other people who just was supporting us and watching us and cheering for us and following along virtually, and then showing up to the shore when he could. And it was just the support from people all the way down from start to finish was very unexpected and just truly remarkable. So inspiring, so humbling. And I also have to admit, it also put a little pressure on. Like, I got to do this for these people. So it was, in some ways, getting to the end, I think Paul said it the best, was kind of a relief when we set the record, because we wanted to do this for so many people, not just.
So what I want to do now is talk about that last little bit between New Orleans and specifically the end of our trip. And I've got some pictures that I want to go through, and I should have posted them up. And even though Moose talked about it before, I'd love it for you guys to just talk about that again. And Moose, if you can expound on that, and I'll put up some pictures to give some illustration to that. And we'll button up our trip that way. We'll go back to Gretchen. Gretchen can talk a little bit more about the One Mississippi and what's going on this week. We can replay the trailer for the upcoming documentary and wish everybody a great night. How does that sound, guys?
Sounds good.
All right. Great. And Gretchen, if you're still with us, we'll cue you back on. And if you could be ready to talk with us one more time about One Mississippi and what's going on, that would be great. So I'm going to cue up some of these pictures and talk about what it was like to go through Baton Rouge. Let's start at Baton Rouge, because it was quite interesting to go from Baton Rouge to New Orleans and then down to the Mississippi River, or to the Mississippi Delta and mile marker 0.
Baton Rouge was like being in a sci-fi film. I mean, it was going through at night. It was wild. I mean, someone else can describe it. I was just in awe of how much was going on all around us. The big barges and the big ships, and it was very nervous making for sure. I was like, this is where the whole thing could end right now if we're not careful. And again, to Moose's point about calling out the captains, I mean, thank God they were helping us through there, because we were able to navigate that without much drama at all, I think. So.
Yeah, I remember Baton Rouge itself, city. I remember being worried about it because I thought it was going to be much worse than Port of St. Louis. And Scott kind of said to me, you know, it's not like St. Louis, Judd, because it's bigger and the waves have more places to kind of, mellow out before they get to the canoe. And he was right on. But then it went dark, and I was in the bow, and Wally was in the stern for that 50-mile section when we went through. I mean, really, I think sometimes people call it Cancer Alley. It was something else. Like you said, Paul, it was like a sci-fi movie. There were like ships and machines and factories that I didn't even know stuff like that existed. And it was really scary. In fact, there's one place where our boat captain tried to get one of the tugs that threw these huge wakes to pass us on the ones, and the tug just refused to pass us on the ones, and we had to paddle like pretty close to the support boat, and then really, really close to the inside of the tug, and it was really dangerous and really scary. And I wanted to get through that section as fast as possible. It was not pleasant.
So I'm showing some pictures here of, I didn't take any at night, but some of the pictures of the industry during the day that I didn't, and this is just a small smattering of what we saw.
And from the racer perspective, I mean, you're always looking for the fast water, and the fast water usually is in the shipping channel. So there was this conflict of staying safe versus going fast. And so I know when I was in the bow, I think, Scott, you were in the stern. Although Scott looks like he dropped off for a bit. But we were really trying to figure out, we wanted to go where it was safe, but at the same time, we were watching our speed, and we wanted to make sure we're in the fast water. So it was, again, that sort of conflict over, obviously we're going to be safe, but in the back of our minds too, we were always thinking, all right, is this the fastest water? Can we nudge a little bit to the left or nudge a little to the right as far as we could and still be safe? So that whole conflict was in play that entire, I think, section through Baton Rouge.
And what I've got on the video here is where we're at in that evening, where you can see all of the industry around. And this is one of those big ocean-going boats that was passing by us. And you can see as it goes. And there's the Falcon boat that was right next to us. We had this Falcon boat that was there for our safety. And not only was it there for our safety, but the river pilot was talking to the pilot on the barge as well. But yeah, these are some more pictures of the industry during the day in the big boats. And that's Judd.
And this is another moment to point out that while there were very dangerous conditions that we had to face, I actually didn't ever feel unsafe. And that is in large part, one, because of the guys who were in the canoe, and two, because of the support boat teams who really, truly, like when we use the word shepherd, that's what they shepherd us down the river. So I wanted to point that out.
This is a cool picture. You can see the boat had just passed us. You can see Falcon in front of us where we've got somebody talking, and we're paddling in the canoe, and we're probably that's Paul up there. Sometimes we would communicate right to the boats using hand signals, and they would hand signal us back. They would wave. They would blow their horns. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was.
And there's Judd. Here's another boat. In fact, I had some pictures of this one earlier when we passed it. It's headed out to the Gulf. And there's a drone that was following us.
Yeah, no wake. It was amazing. I couldn't believe it, how quiet they were.
The other thing I remember about Baton Rouge was how relieved I was that it wasn't like the Port of St. Louis in terms of being a 15-mile wind tunnel full of extremely disturbed, windy, wavy water. So it was like, all right, it might be really industrial, but at least it's not that.
These are the pictures I have of us coming through. Here's another boat passing us. But this is coming through New Orleans. And there you can see all of the industry on the side of the river there. These aren't at night, but this is during the day. You can only imagine how it is at night. And this is actually when it had been cleaned up because you're getting close to New Orleans. But you can see the waves, the river, the big boat there. That boat's all packed up and ready to go wherever its port of call is, somewhere in the world. These are big old Navy boats that we saw coming through. This is New Orleans, coming through New Orleans. I had some neat pano pictures when we came through New Orleans. But after we got, so New Orleans was cool. We talked about New Orleans. We talked about the area after we had passed through New Orleans. Let's talk about when we started to hit to the Delta. We finally started to get close to mile marker 0. We hit that calm water. So we started to hit that calm water, and this is about the time, I think, when we started to hit that calm water. The sun was going down, and we all started to have that realization that we were going to get it done. So talk about that experience, guys. Moose, can you talk about that again? That was great from your perspective.
Well, I think, for me, the amazing thing that was happening on shore at this time is family members were starting to arrive from all over. I mean, I had an opportunity to meet Paul's parents. Of course, I'd been spending a lot of time with Wally's parents, but Heidi, Scott's wife, and her sister Nora, my nieces, came. My wife arrived. Ryan Church's wife arrived. Kevin Patty's wife arrived. I mean, we had all these family members coming in and everything. So it was just a fantastic time. It was a little, trying to continue to support the team and do all the job and meet all the family members and such. We Richard and Lori, who were on the crew from the previous attempt, they arrived. So, it was just wonderful having all these family members starting to roll in and become part of the effort with us. And that, to me, that's the one thing that during this section really stood out for me, was all of a sudden all this additional family and friends and support coming to visit. It was absolutely fantastic.
And if I can cut you off here, this is a bad picture, but it's a cool picture nonetheless. That is the boat with all of our family and friends on it. And it was so loud and so cool. The boat was loud, but we could hear everybody in our family, and you could see them on the other side of that light just cheering us on as we raced down to mile marker 0. And we got to mile marker 0. And this is when we finally got off the boat, got onto mile marker 0. This is what we were talking about, the wooden structure up to mile marker 0. And this is us signing into the book that they were describing. Why don't we talk about the book one more time here? What was the book? You signed it.
I signed it, and that was really special. We climbed up that thing and up the structure, and then it was Joey Cargill. Does anyone know when Joey Cargill put the book there? Scott, do you know?
Not long ago. I think he did the whole river in like 2019, maybe.
Yeah, so it hasn't been there very long, but there's this waterproof case with an NRS, cam strap. And inside that case, there's a couple of 2 or 3 pens, which is very thoughtful. And then this book, and everyone who's paddled the whole river, whether it takes 100 days or 20 days, you get to sign this book that you've paddled the whole river. It was just so remarkable.
And I have to say, I was extremely nervous about somebody falling, because well, Tracy has asked a couple times where my shoe went, and I'm pretty well known for walking around with just one shoe or one sock on, so just normally. But I think it was in the boat somewhere, and my feet were all torn up from sand or something. But when I got to the top, the platform we were on had pieces of floor missing, and I was just imagining Wally stepping through, because you came really close a few times, to stepping through one of the, and I'm like, being a dad, I'm like, Wally, step away from the hole, step away from the hole. And he's trying to, celebrate, and I just couldn't do anything but worry about you guys falling through that hole. So I just wanted to get down, honestly. I don't like heights either. So I was that was the most dangerous part of the whole trip, in my opinion.
It's funny.
I was having those same thoughts from that boat, Paul.
I'll share with you some. Hold on a second. I get these pictures back up here.
And then Wally gets the wrestling masks out, I'm like, no, we need to get down because someone's gonna fall. Wally, you're gonna fall. So I just kept. I think I was actually holding on to you. It's maybe.
Yes, you were. There we are on the mile marker 0 here. Hold on, look to it. He's excited, but a little scared.
I was not happy. I was ready to get down.
That is the wrestling mask time.
Oh, that's good.
There we go. I love that one. So yeah, there we are. That's the mile marker 0. So you can see what that looked like. There's everybody on the back of that boat.
But Joey Cargill, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Joey Cargill had told me that this, I mean, we're calling it a buoy, but it's really a tower, that there was heavy currents there and that it could be dangerous. And so, I agree. None of us really were willing to relax until we actually got to this thing. And then even getting to the thing, it's right in between two of the, what do you call them? Two of the shipping channels that go on the distributaries towards the Gulf.
So this is a picture of the rock jutty that came out from it that shows kind of how dangerous it is there.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really cool shot, Wally. So it's right in between the South Pass, the beginning of the South Pass and the Southwest Pass. And I remember the captains we were working with on the support boats trying to figure out which pass to go into. And then we had the navigation app, and it was just all a little worrisome. And I didn't know how the currents would be in there. And it turned out that for whatever reason, the way the tide was going, it was actually calm right next to the tower. And we were able to just kind of eddy out and scoot right in below it and not crash and not flip over. And I was very, very thankful for that it wasn't actually dangerous at the end of there, at least in that way.
There's a good picture of what it looks like from a distance.
Yeah.
Wow.
Also, guys, I think we could do this quickly. Somebody asked if they could see all of our hands and how our hands are doing. So
yes, hold on a second. I'll get this.
You can see the remnants of some blisters on my hands, but they're doing pretty good.
Yeah, amazingly, it had almost no blisters the whole trip. I don't even know.
My hands are fine. I don't know what you guys.
Tracy did a really good job. It was rainy there around Minneapolis, and I think all of us went to her, and she bandaged up my hands, and I didn't have a problem the rest of the way, but my feet were pretty torn up, and it always happens. I never learned my lesson to wear like a little sock inside your paddling shoes. So that's why I only had one shoe there at the end, because I just couldn't stand wearing both for whatever reason. But I think they were pretty torn up, and they just actually healed up maybe a week ago. So
in regards to the masks, there is a rumor that's out there, and I'm not sure whether we should talk about it, but there is a amazing paddling team called Los Humongos Paddlos, but they're a little bit mischievous. And there was a rumor going around that after we passed through New Orleans at some point, that they raided our boat, took over, and paddled the remainder of the trip. And they were, in fact, the ones that went up on mile marker 0 there, and they posted those pictures all over the internet, claiming that they were the ones that set the world record, Guinness World Record.
The
Guinness World Record, exactly. No, I have fun with those masks. They're luchador masks, and I wore those at a race one time, the Missouri River 340, just to mess with people, so that there was some levity to everything that was going on. And it's been kind of a persona of mine to have this Mexican wrestler machismo personality that I get when I put on the mask. And I demanded that these guys join me in that personality, and thus we wore the mask from time to time, and we got our machismo luchador personalities on when we climbed the flag there as Los Humongos Paddlos. And you guys are all now honorary Los Humongos Paddlos. Not only honorary, you are part of the team. So explaining the wrestler mask. So it was a really empowering experience, and I just want to button up some final thoughts. Final thought from me is I really appreciated everybody coming out and supporting us, everybody that's here tonight. It really meant a lot to us. This was a big effort. There were a lot of people involved. I've got to thank personally thank everybody that helped us do this on the shore, the support crew, my mom and dad, Moose, everybody. And thank everybody for their participation. We couldn't have done it without you. Do you guys have a last thought that you'd like to share?
Just
really,
that,
yeah.
I mean, just overwhelmed. I mean, like we'd said many times, I wasn't prepared at all to witness the amount of love and support we got. And the river, I mean, it's beautiful and it's a treasure. And I hope that in a small way we were able to help through our trip expose more people to it. So that's all.
Anybody else?
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is just thanks to everybody for joining us on this live stream. I don't know if we'll do one of these again. We might. We'll see. We don't have any planned right now, but there certainly seems to be some interest, and we're flattered and appreciative of that. I also just want to apologize. I ran this big race weekend this weekend, and I'm still very sleep deprived. So if you notice that I was tired, it's very true, and I apologize for that.
Sleepy Scott.
Sleep.
Bruce, Judd, any last thoughts?
Well, mostly what my last thoughts are have really been stated already. It's I'll circle back to this notion of gratitude and thankfulness. I was really not prepared for how incredibly supportive, caring, loving the people in the canoe would be, all the support team would be, and all the fans and supporters would be. It's really overwhelming.
Yeah, I would just echo what Paul said about, I mean, one of the things that you learn is what an unbelievable resource isn't the right word, but the river is such a powerful way that brings people together. I mean, you hear about it in song about how wonderful people are on the river. John Brady mentioned that it's got some spiritual ability to bring people together. And that was certainly the case. That the one thing that I'll walk away from with this is these lifelong relationships that are extremely strong because of what we have all been through together and what accomplished together. And that includes everybody along the way in the support we had from people like the Mississippi River Network and others. So thank you very much, everybody.
So with that in the Mississippi River Network, thank you so much for inviting us out here. And I wanted to invite you one more time to give us a little bit of a closing, well, not necessarily a closing remark, but a recap that you can, like you did at the beginning of the show, to talk about what wonderful things you're doing and the wonderful things that you're especially doing this week.
Before I do that, I just want to take the chance, since I'm like here having a voice. I know we're hearing comments from all of the people watching, but just want to thank you all so much for sharing all of your stories. I mean, all of us have tuned in. We watched different pieces. Some of us came out. Some of us watched, every possible moment that we could of your trip. But hearing your stories and hearing you weave this all together is just like gives us a wonderful perspective. And you all have been so generous throughout the trip. I mean, it really would have been easy for you guys to say, hey, I'm paddling, I'm focusing on this record, I'm doing something really important, I've trained all this time, I don't have time for you, I don't have time to tell you what I'm doing. But you all have been so generous with what you're doing and sharing about your experiences and sharing about the river. And that is why we are so honored to be a sponsor of what you're doing, because as Paul said, you're exposing people to the river, introducing them to the river and to paddling and to getting out there. And we are so honored, as I said before, to be a sponsor of what you're doing. And thank you so much on behalf of everybody I know that's watching. You have been so generous. And while you asked me to talk about what we're all doing, this event tonight is part of the Mississippi River Days of Action. We're right smack in the middle of it. There's 4 more days left. So there are a lot of different events happening up and down the river. Paddling adventures, cleanups, all sorts of things happening. You can go to our website. It's there on the bottom of the screen, onemississippi.org/riverdays. You can look events up by your location, by date, and find an activity near you. There are a few things going on online. And as Scott pointed out earlier in the program, if you can't be part of River Days of Action that is happening right now, you can sign up as a River citizen. You can find information when you go to that link. We have a newsletter. It's free to sign up as a River citizen. You get a newsletter. You find out about all of these different activities, including possibly an upcoming Mississippi speed record attempt number 3, which we know it is not going to happen anytime soon. But other things that the team might be doing. So you can find information like that in our newsletter. So thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be part of what you're doing and to introduce all of your followers to the beauty of the river and the magic of the river.
Thank
and
you.
if I may speak for all of the guys here on the Mississippi Speed Record, it was our honor to represent and fly the colors of One Mississippi and everything that you do, and thank you for that.
Yeah.
So I had one thing that somebody said, and I thought this would be fun to do, was to do one last time a call out. And Scott, I'd invite you to do a call out for us. And then I don't leave everybody. We'll go the call out into the trailer. And but before we go, I would like to thank everybody who's joined us this evening for spending some time with us and allowing us to share our stories and our experiences on the Mississippi River. It was an amazing experience, and we only scratched the surface of all of the different stories and all of the different things that we could tell. We would invite you to become a subscriber on our YouTube channel. And also, if you're not already a member of the community, our Facebook community. We've kind of died down a little bit on our posts, but that's only because we're just trying to recharge our batteries a little bit. I think there'll be some more content that's put up out there. But it was truly an amazing experience for all of us. And I thank you so much for being a part of it. I can't wait to get this documentary out to show you all of the things that we didn't touch on here tonight, and the true spirit of what the Mississippi Speed Record is. And you're going to have to watch for it. It should be out, I want to say, between 4 to 6 months. Sign up on wildernessmindset.com. I believe that's what
That's right.
wildernessmindset.com. They've got a newsletter there, and they'll keep you up to speed as to when that documentary is coming out. And if that's not enough to get you fired up about the Mississippi Speed Record and the record, the Guinness record that we just set, wait till you see this preview. Once again, one last time, thank you from the Mississippi Speed Record. You guys, any last words that you've got?
Here we go again.
Here we go again.
Bemidji to New Orleans.
Bemidji to New Orleans.
That was
Let's
the song.
go.
We sang that every landing, I think. So
Yep. It was a chance that one of the members of our ground crew would sing to us, and we would sing back and have a good time with that. Well, with that, everybody, thank you so much. Have a great night. But before you go, check out this trailer one last time, because if this doesn't get you going, I don't know what will. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks,
Good night.
Wally.
Good night, all. Thank you.
thank you.
The current record is 17 days, 19 hours, 46 minutes. It never occurred to me to try to set a Guinness World Record in anything or be interested in that. It was really like in one day, like a bolt of lightning was like, I want to do that. We were going to go in 2020, and then the coronavirus came and scuttled our plans, and we kind of had a falling out. So then we ended up kind of having rival teams in 2021. We almost beat them. They left 2 weeks before us. They set the new record, but then we had this tropical depression the last few days, 30-mile-an-hour winds, huge waves. The canoe sank out from under us. We had to get rescued on the support boat. and pretty darn quickly, I was like, well, I want to try that again. And that leads us to now.
All right, so there are 4 people in the canoe. There's Scott, Judd, Paul, and myself. And Scott is the leader of this group.
Well, Scott is the guru. He knows where we are at all times. We're like just cranking away. Anyone know where we are right now? Oh yeah, well 2 years ago we passed that rock over there. And then after that you'll see this weird kind of thing, and that indicates that there's a landing coming up. I mean, he is just an unbelievable fountain of knowledge.
Judd is a scientist in my mind in terms of not only paddling, but how to make this all happen. It's very intense. We just started. That's the crazy part, right?
Yeah, and Wally, I mean, always just really good at offering perspective. Really, really smart guy.
Paul, I see as being the athlete of the group. The most amazing resume of ultra endurance athletics, not just canoeing.
We're at 10 minutes, guys. 10 minutes.
In my mind, I don't see a disparate relationship between support team and canoe team. It's one big team, Mississippi Speed Record.
Let's go. Let's get
9
moving.
minutes.
Let's roll. Move it. Let's roll. We can do a lot of this fixing stuff in the middle of the boat.
They're the people that truly make this happen.
And then we have the support boat crew, which is like 6 more people.
Hey, we're escorting a canoe up here.
We would not be able to do it without the support crew. Unlike winning a gold medal in most Olympic events, where it's entirely about skill and physical ability, this record has a big element of that, but it also has a big element of teamwork and cooperation and planning and strategy and luck. And that's the thing about this record. And I love this and hate this, but mostly love it about this world record.
We're creating relationships, we're creating bonds, we're creating memories together. At the end of the day, I think that's going to be the magic of the Mississippi Speed Record.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much.